It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans, and I am your host this morning. And somebody asked me the other day, why do you call the show America's Voice? Because every other mainstream media organization out there is not. The truth is, America, we're in big trouble, boy, and somebody better speak up for the average American out there, because the lobbyists are buying and selling Congress for their own benefit. Nobody is really speaking out for us. I want to thank those folks that are joining us live on our website at americasvoicenow.org. I see a whole bunch of you out there this morning. My gracious, there's a ton of you. I see Baltimore out there, and let's see, that's Delton, and I think that is Fort Wayne. Lincoln, Nebraska. I see Summersville. I see Scurry, Huntington. Those are all Texas areas. A bunch of stuff out on the West Coast. Thanks for joining with us. If you have not yet made your the Constitution Club or Patriot FB a part of your daily life, I strongly encourage you to do that. Get away from Facebook, which is censoring you and monitoring you, and find yourself some alternative social media to participate with. The Constitution Club can be found by going to constitutionclub.ning.com or .org. I'm not sure which, but you'll find it. The other is Patriot FB, Patriot Foxtrot Bravo, or Patriot Facebook. The idea of both of these sites is that you will have an opportunity to communicate with others who are like-minded, and you will not have censorship. And in addition to that, Constitution Club has a really unique program, which is that they have a special little micro website, if you will, for every one of the 3,300, roughly 3,300 counties in the United States. So the cool part of that is that you get an opportunity to meet with other people who are like-minded, but also close to you. So you don't have to go and work hard to find them. That is a great feature, and I cannot encourage you enough to participate in that. You will have an opportunity to interact with them on Constitution Club by joining up that local county resource, or if you live on a border, maybe 2 neighboring counties, and find some folks that you can participate with politically, from a prepper perspective, from a training perspective. Maybe somebody in the area knows of a great co-op that you can buy food, collectively from. Things like that. And so, by all means, do that. Get over to Patriot FB, where America's Voice Now broadcasts every morning. And right after I'm on, you've got a couple of other great programs on there, including Tom Lacavara's program. And I cannot encourage you enough to be a part of that, because Patriot FB, Resurrect the Republic, and J.J. McCartney is on from 2 to 4 Central. And J.J. is, the guy has got 30-some-odd years in the radio industry, and it shows. He is a true professional. I'm just a hack, regular guy who got sick and tired of waiting for everybody else to come forth and say what needed to be said, right? State the obvious. JJ has a unique slant and a unique way of putting it, and I encourage you to catch his show. You can find that on Patriot FB Radio, and you can simply go to patriotfb.com, and you'll get all the details. We're going to cover a couple of different topics this morning. Our normal process is to cover 4 different areas or topics, but we're going to try to give you a quick news update on some of the other things that are happening too, because the information that's out there, and the news is laden with all kinds of articles and stories that are worthwhile reading for those of you that are politically awake and aware. Yesterday was tax day. We all got our butts handed to us. Just a quick little factoid for you, but in 1916, when the 16th Amendment and income tax were passed, it's interesting to note that the average tax rate was 6%. 6. In the last year, America has seen a 1.8% increase in taxes. Everybody. So in the last year, we went up a third of what the original tax rate was. Hello? If you want to know how government has grown so big, look at how much money they're collecting and look at how much they're taking from you. It's a problem. It's a problem. That's why I have consistently thrown out there the phrase that you must starve the beast. If we're going to free this nation of an oligarchy, a tyrannical oligarchy and a small group of officials who, for all intents and purposes, consider you to be their human resource, then you need to starve them out, because the only way that they can continue to abscond power is by your money, quite frankly. They're buying their power with your money. Hello? All right, our 4 topics this morning. NSA monitors Wi-Fi on U.S. aircraft. Now, guys, I got to tell you, this nonsense with the NSA, you know, I guess I'm questioning why corporate America is not standing up and screaming bloody murder. Because the number of people that fly in the United States is, in large part, corporate business people who are flying to and from meetings and what have you. The NSA is capturing and gaining access to your computer and monitoring what you're sending on Wi-Fi. If they can monitor what you're sending and receiving and look at your email, they can also look at the content of your hard drive. And if they can do that, then I got to ask the obvious question. Why isn't corporate America up in arms? Because all of their trade secrets, all of their new plan, all of their new product planning, all of their marketing plans, all of their corporate intelligence, all of their financials, all of their proprietary information, it's all there in those laptops of their executives and their higher echelon people who are flying around the country. So that stuff is then falling into the hands of who? Somebody at the NSA or the FBI, and who knows who it's then distributed to. Should raise a question in every corporate executive team's collective mind. Why are they not speaking out? I mean, you know, not only would it help them, of course, it would inadvertently help us. I don't think they really care one way or the other about us, but it would help us if they spoke out. And so if you work for a large corporation, if your executives in your company travel, I would encourage you to get, you know, the mug for putting into the suggestion box the comment that perhaps it's time that corporate America or your company's executive team looked at security from the standpoint of their traveling public or their traveling employees. Big question. Second topic this morning is going to be about Virginia, and an interesting article that's out from watchdog.org about a woman, Catherine Watson, who's a reporter there, and she went out and did a request to find out what the local police had on her, just as an investigative reporter issue. What she found was astounding, and we're going to go over it. Our third topic, tax facts and absurdities. Well, because yesterday was the big day for the federal government and your state governments, we're going to talk about some of the issues surrounding who's paying what and some of the absurdities associated with it. By the way, as a way of an update, I brought out yesterday that the IRS has been collecting debt from individuals based on your parents and your grandparents' debt that may have been incurred by them from Social Security, an overpayment, what have you. Yesterday, and I'm not going to be like Bill O'Reilly and take credit for everything that happens, but yesterday the IRS put a temporary halt to that program, and even they recognized it as absurd. I'm sure there was a lot that had a lot to do with public pressure, but and political pressure, of course. Don't forget, this is an election year, right? So, and then our fourth and final topic will be the Ukraine and the Obama foreign policy, or the lack thereof, perhaps, is the way we should phrase it. Because at this stage, folks, you got to recognize that we are in big trouble as a country. We're in big trouble in a number of areas, but the area of foreign policy is particularly sensitive. And I say that because a lot of Americans kind of, they gloss over when you talk about foreign policy. Oh, the Middle East thing, we've been at that for decades now. Generations we've been trying to settle that strife. The issue of Iraq, the issue of Afghanistan, the issue of Iran, the issue of Syria, the issue of the Ukraine, the issue of Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Russia, South America, Africa. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I'm not quite sure everybody understands exactly how much it affects us, or how much the lack of foreign policy and the failed foreign policy out there has really, truly affected us. So let's jump into our first topic because we're running short on time. I'm blabbing away here. By the way, a quick update. Rory Reid came out yesterday and said rancher Cliven Bundy should be prosecuted. And I'm thinking, wow, now that's interesting. Here you have Al Capone, the Al Capone of Nevada, turning around and saying that, a member of the public should be arrested and prosecuted for things which he himself is by far more guilty of. It's interesting, he said, we believe in a country in which we are subject to laws, and they can't just ignore the laws we don't like. I think clearly if state and local prosecutors look at this more closely, they're going to find that he broke the law and he should be prosecuted. He went on to say he is not a victim and he's not a hero. He's been using that which he doesn't own for over 20 years, and he didn't pay. He broke the law. There are hundreds of ranchers throughout Nevada that conduct their profession honorably. There's thousands of them throughout the country, and when they have a dispute with the BLM, they try to work it out. Well, for the record, let me just throw out there that Bundy has tried to work it out, but he's been in front of a corrupt court that is siding with the BLM because, here it is, you're going to the bully's brother and complaining about the bully. And how do you think he's going to find? Duh. I think Rory Reid should be prosecuted for there's a lot of things he should be prosecuted for, not the least of which is all the dirty real estate deals he does on behalf of his piece of crap father. But what he really should be prosecuted in this case for is undermining U.S. sovereignty and betraying the people of the state of Nevada. Rory Reid is a shadow figure working on behalf of his father. And of course, every one of the Reid sons has enriched himself at the expense of taxpayers. So I really don't think they're in any position to talk. All right, the NSA is monitoring Wi-Fi on U.S. airplanes, in violation, by the way, of privacy laws. Gee whiz, you're kidding. Really? No, everything they do is a violation of USA privacy laws. Not the privacy laws that are on the books. Those privacy laws, are written by politicians with loopholes in mind so that they can work around them. The real privacy law is this thing called the Fourth Amendment, okay? And the real privacy law is this thing called the First Amendment. Companies that are providing Wi-Fi on U.S. domestic flights are handing the data over to the NSA willingly. They're adapting their technology on purpose to allow security services like the NSA and the FBI to have new powers to spy on their passengers. Now, there's a problem with that. And this came out of Wired magazine, by the way, and GoGo. And Wired leaked to Wired. GoGo which is the leading provider of in-flight Wi-Fi, admitted to violating the requirements of the Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act, or what's called CALEA. The act is part of a wiretapping law passed in 1994 that requires telecommunications carriers to provide law enforcement with a backdoor into their systems to monitor telephone and broadband communications. GoGo stated in the letter to the FCC that it added new capabilities to the service that go beyond CALEA's requirements at the behest of law enforcement agencies. So what you've got here is the NSA and the FBI and the DHS going to these corporations that run these services and saying, look, we want you to give us expanded capability that's above and beyond what the law requires. And they're like, oh, okay, sure, no sweat. Why? I mean, first and foremost, why would they do that? Is that not a violation of your privacy for them to do that? And that doesn't, it's not limited, by the way, just to GoGo and other in-flight networks. How about Google and AOL and all of the other, Yahoo and all the other data networks out there? It's just absurd. GoGo's attorney wrote, in designing its existing network, GoGo worked closely with law enforcement to incorporate functionalities and protections that would serve public safety and national security interests. He refused to elaborate on the nature of the changes, but he said they worked with, quote, federal agencies to reach an agreement regarding a set of additional capabilities to accommodate law enforcement interests. So let's just take that for a moment and put it into the perspective and the concept of corporate America. For those of you that work for corporations, large and small, you know that there is IP. What is IP? It's called intellectual property. And this is proprietary information that the corporation believes is the technological basis for its products and its services and its intellectual property that the corporation regards as trade secret. Right? They don't want the competition to know that they've just produced and created a new product and they're getting ready to launch it because they can be beat to market, as an example, with it. In addition to that, they may be currently applying for a patent for a new invention they've manufactured or created, right? And before the patent application is submitted, that information is sitting on some executive's laptop where he's flying out to maybe meet with the person who or the company that is actually producing the widget or the new invention so that they can get the final plans together to submit for a patent. Well, guess what? Before they ever actually get to the point where they can get to the patent office with the application, what happens? Somebody in the NSA or the FBI gets that information, and wouldn't it be convenient if his cousin or his brother-in-law or his sister-in-law worked for one of the competitors, and he silently slipped that information to them? Not possible, you say? Bunk. The NSA has been consistently, and not just NSA, but law enforcement across the country in both state, federal, and fusion centers, have been caught misusing their authority in the sense that they look up ex-girlfriends to see who they're currently dating. They look up future girlfriends. They have misused the data for all manner of things. What would make you think they wouldn't use it for something that might be worth, to a competitor as an example, literally millions of dollars? Question marks, anyone? Why is corporate America completely and totally closed to raising this issue? Why are they not? This article here is interesting because it continues to expound on the Electronic Frontier Foundation and their comments to Wired Magazine about how having ISPs now that say that CALEA isn't enough, we're going to be even more intrusive in what we collect on people, is honestly very scandalous. And it's a fairly there's some other paragraphs you want to catch on it. My point is simply this: does a corporation that offers you service have an obligation to offer some level of protection for you? I mean, you are paying for it after all, most of the time. And even if you're not, if they offer it as in a gratuitous manner, as an amenity, as part of your flight services or whatever else, you are entitled to a certain level of deference. Your privacy. You're the corporation who's spending the vast majority of the money that airlines make. Are you not entitled to some deference for that? Why would a corporation bend over backwards and put in capabilities that go above and beyond what the law requires, which means anything that the law requires that's above and beyond, or anything that's above and beyond what the law requires, would be what? That would be a violation of your privacy. Not that, and I mean, look, I'm just taking it on the face of what they classify to be the law. Personally, I think their laws are unconstitutional, null and void in the first place because they already exceed the constitutional authorization that government has been given. But even if we take it from their perspective and actually buy into their argument that they can create a law that has a threshold here, anything that's done here and above would be in a greater violation of your privacy because the law is the base threshold, the maximum that they can do. Remember that law and the Constitution as a general whole are not intended to rule you. They're intended to limit government. Bind men down with the chains of a constitution. Right? Or wrong? I mean, wasn't that the original intent, that the Constitution was really there to make sure that individuals would not allow their personal whims, their personal ability to improve their lot in life, whether that be financial or political or power or whatever, to be used in their position of authority, to allow them to abuse that position of authority, to gain something. That was the whole point, folks. And human nature tells us that it will happen. In fact, it happens to everyone because power corrupts, period. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to tackle our second topic. This is a very, very interesting one. Do not miss this topic. License plate cameras are tracking you everywhere. Now, I talked about this the other day about Missouri's scamra, that's the red light camera scam that they've been running, and how we're trying to get that knocked out here in the in Missouri. But beyond that, I'm going to talk to you about a woman who works with and writes for watchdog.org in their Virginia bureau. And she did an interesting test to see exactly what the story was and what they know about her. So make sure that you don't miss this because it's very, very interesting how much information they're collecting on just the average citizen. What I want you to think to yourself, and I want you to ask yourself, is one question. If they're gathering all of this information, here's the simple question. Is there any one positive thing that I can point to in my personal life that will come from the government's tracking of all of my activities? Ask yourself that question. You can find us live at americasvoicenow.org. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/americasvoicenow. And you can find every program that we do posted up on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/americasvoicenow. Basically, remember, America's Voice Now, strung together, and you can find us everywhere. We'll be back in just a second.